Well, hello again. Um, Welcome everyone again to my channel, and thank you for taking the time to drop by. This is one among a number of videos that I intend to make about ancient Egypt and the mysterious Hyksos rulers. Um, the shadows of lost history. This is going to be kind of a short pit stop before the other videos that I'll make in the future. Of course, I made one video already. Actually, I made two. Welcome to the Shadows of Lost History. Let's go to the other slide. So I have made a number of videos about ancient Egypt, none of them professional. But the videos I've made recently have been videos I made after I got a degree in history. And that doesn't always mean anything. I am actually an English teacher. I teach ESL in South Korea, and I know people whose first language is not English, but their English teaching skills are a lot better than mine. Um, so a degree doesn't always mean that somebody's going to be better than somebody else at something. But it does speak an eloquent word of perseverance and hard work and effort. There are two videos that I'll talk about briefly. The first video was from a few days ago, which was basically half an hour long, which is too long for a video. My goal for each slide in these videos I'm producing is about a minute. I'm going to try to stick to that. So the first video I made a few days ago was much too long. I felt it was not professional, so I'm making that video over again. The other video was from October 2024, and it was the first video in this series, The Shadows of Lost History. Egypt, the Hyksos, and Josephus. And in that video, I explored how the Hyksos were the descendants of Ephraim and Manasseh. And I presented some scholarly evidence, not a lot because I didn't want to make the video too long. And this is another video I'm making, and excuse my progress. I'm still learning how to make videos, and I'm trying to make them enjoyable and quick. And yes, thank you for your patience. Let's go to the next slide. Okay, so the preliminaries, a little bit of housekeeping, scholarly and otherwise. What is this going to be about, this video here? So there's going to be a brief dedication, some scholarly indications that will color the rest of these videos and kind of let you know where it's coming from. There is the abstract, which is a scholarly term and the catalyst for what got me into this in the first place. And I'm going to provide a brief bit of background, and of course I have a lot of people to thank as well. So, um, I want to, I don't thank my dear wife Kathy enough for all she is and all she does. Thank you, dear Kathy. 감사합니다. And of course, this video is also dedicated to my dear parents, Art and Ruth Stone, who have given me lots of encouragement and good examples, and I'm very thankful. Let's go to the next slide. So this video series is a companion to a 90-page thesis paper I wrote in order to get an MA in history. And the thesis paper was for my final project, which was about Egypt, the Hyksos, and ancient Egyptian history. It's also going to be an exploration of timelines from Abraham to Tutankhamun, who that's a period of about 900 years or so. And this is going to include more than 30 scholarly sources. It's the result of years of research and personal academic effort, and they are the result of prayer and great effort. Importantly, being a scholar and being a storyteller is possible. And as scholars and historians, we need to make history come alive. We need to make history interesting and relatable. And we can do that. That's an important goal of mine. And I will be trying to do this on all of my videos because who wants to watch a video that you can't relate to? So let's go to the next slide. So this is a little historical information. This is about the Hyksos rulers of ancient Egypt who were defeated about 1,000 years before the Persians. And you can see in the top in that direction over there, that is the signet of a Hyksos ruler. That is what their signet looked like, kind of their signature, their ability to engage in commerce, and for which they were very successful. There's not a lot of information about the Hyksos. Um, and there are some secondary and primary sources. A primary source is a source that when an historical event happened, the primary source would be somebody who recorded it happening. They were in the same place, or they saw it, or they were connected with it in some way. A secondary source is somebody who heard about it, looked at the evidence, and analyzed it, and then wrote a history of it. So because this is so far in the past, finding a primary source was at first a big stumbling block for me. How are you going to find people who observed what happened in ancient Egypt, and how are those records going to survive? But fortunately for me, there was a very important bit of information that made all of this possible, and it was given to me by one of my very helpful professors. If an artifact or statue or document or papyrus or item that is ancient is written about, analyzed in a scholarly journal or in a scholarly museum of some kind, it is considered a primary source. With this in mind, much of the artifacts, the statues, the papyri that survive, they are considered primary sources because they are all covered in scholarly journals and books like JSTOR, and museums like the British Museum. So ordinarily there wouldn't be enough to go on. Now, what is a public historian? That was my specialty. When you go to a museum and a tour guide approaches you, usually the tour guide will be somebody who is a public historian in a archive or historical library or museum. So a word about timelines. I will be using the most common timelines that historians use for ancient Egyptian history. And I will be using those timelines to explore from one ruler to another, from one era to another, from one century to another. And they will all be interconnected. Now, if I had not known or found out about the Hyksos rulers of ancient Egypt, that interconnectivity would have been a lot more difficult and challenging. So in a way, this my theory about the Hyksos being the descendants of Ephraim and Manasseh is in a way a game changer. But as I will mention later, in the Bible, John the Baptist said that a man can receive nothing except it be given him from heaven. And I truly believe that God has blessed me with this knowledge. So let's go to the next slide. So here you can see a number of very interesting pictures. There are about 30 scholarly sources for this project that I have so far. I am accumulating more, but a source, I have to study it for a long time and look at it from every angle to make sure that it is a source that I can use. So I have about 30 scholarly sources. One source is this blue book you see here, Avaris, the capital of the Hyksos, recent excavations at Tel el-Daba, which is in the northeastern corner of Egypt, near what is known now as the Shakия Governorate, and which is in what evidence shows as being the biblical Goshen. Many excavations were undertaken in that place. And a bit of interesting information was the excavator was a gentleman, a historian and scholar, and archaeologist, Manbert Batak, who is a professor at the University of Vienna in Austria. He spent decades in Egypt undertaking archaeological digs at Tel El Daba. And the one interesting fact is that out of all the bones that they have found, and there have been many bones they have found, within about a 10-kilometer radius, out of all the sheep bones, cow bones, and pig bones, they have not yet encountered a pig bone. So that is interesting information. So for all of my videos, I'm going to have what is known as a Scholar's Corner. And the Scholar's Corner is going to be where you see there. And it is going to have information where I got the information I am presenting here. And it will always be from a scholarly source. Maybe a museum, maybe maybe a scholarly journal like JSTOR. So, and you can see in the middle, there are 5 pharaohs from the 18th dynasty. You can see in the beginning, the most well-known pharaoh, Tutankhamun. After that, you can see Thutmose III. You can see Ahmose I, the founder of the 18th dynasty, who reunited Upper and Lower Egypt in 1550 BC. And you can see Akhenaten, or Amenhotep IV, who is known as the heretic pharaoh. Why is he called the heretic pharaoh? He took it into his authority to abolish the gods of Egypt and to establish one god, Aten, the sun disk, and he named his son Tutankhaten. But of course, Amenhotep IV, Akhenaten, the heretic pharaoh, died. And as soon as he died, the very powerful priest of Amun persuaded the young king to change his name to Tutankhamun, after the traditional head of the gods of Egypt. And next to Akhenaten, you can see his very famous wife, Nefertiti. There's quite a number of rulers with this name in ancient Egypt. Nefertiti, whose bust is in the Berlin Museum. So there are, what is an abstract? An abstract is a term or a bit of preliminary writing to a research paper that a lot of historians and scholars spend time on. It's usually not very long, typically about a page. And an abstract tells the intent of an archaeological or the intent of a scholarly paper. The basic intent, the abstract, what I wrote in my abstract, which was about a page long, was the following. There are 3 essential questions about the ancient Hyksos rulers that are by and large unanswered. I've never encountered any scholar or anybody who has answered all 3 of the following questions. Who were the Hyksos? Where did they come from? Where did they go? Josephus answers this to some extent, as I showed in my last video. A lot has been lost to history. So much has been lost to history. And this video, The Shadows of Lost History, the intent is to bring those events, a lot of those events, out into the shadow and back into the world of common knowledge, which is a maybe it's a pipe dream. I'm not sure. But it's a very interesting pipe dream, and that's what I am shooting for. So let's go to the next video. So every great effort involves a journey. Why did I decide to start making videos about the Hyksos rulers of ancient Egypt, a group of people that many historians have never heard of before? And the first time I encountered the Hyksos, I didn't know who they were. Whenever I wrote them in the word processor I use, it would always flag them with a little red line. This is spelled wrong. Still the case. So I became interested in the Hyksos because my brother and I decided to write a book. And through an interesting set of circumstances, the book included some ancient Egyptian history that was in line with the Bible. The Bible and ancient Egyptian history are like flashlights, two flashlights, okay? There are some points where the Bible doesn't give a lot of details, and there are some points where there are many, many gaps or places in Egyptian history where there's no information. It's just gone. Okay? But when we use ancient Egyptian history to shine light on the Bible, and especially when we use the Bible to shine light on ancient Egyptian history, they work as flashlights. They reveal very interesting information. And on the one hand, as a scholar, this must be analyzed very carefully. But on the other hand, it needs to be presented in the manner of a storyteller. And that's something that I am working on. I started writing a book about a historical narrative. And I was writing about Egypt, and the more I wrote, the more I realized I didn't know a lot about history. I mean, I loved history, but I didn't know a lot about historical methods and that sort of thing. So I finally thought, oh, maybe I should go back to school. But why go back to school and get into debt? All that, and my first degree, my BA, was hard enough to finish and pay off as it was. Why go back to school and, get into a lot more debt? I dragged my feet for about a year trying to write more on this book with the help of my brother, and I finally realized this is something I need to do. So I went back to school, and the consolation was that I was going to be studying history, something that I understood and that wasn't a challenge for me, or so I thought. So, initiative overcame hesitation because I was so fascinated by the things that I was researching and learning. For example, it has been the common understanding of historians and society in general that Ramses II was the pharaoh of the Exodus. Hollywood has spent more than $500 million on films just about the Exodus and maybe a few films about Joseph. And the narrative is always the same. Ramses was the pharaoh of the Exodus. But recent archaeological evidence has shown us a different story that's very interesting. One very interesting detail is that a lot of historians these days, myself included, believe that the Egyptian mother of Moses was the famous female pharaoh Hatshepsut. A lot of the details of her life, her politics, her rule, fit in like a puzzle into the story of Moses. And it's very, very interesting. Another interesting tidbit is that we believe that the pharaoh of the Exodus may have been Thutmose III or his son Amenhotep II of the 18th dynasty. And there are good reasons for believing it could be either one. Both of them had a firstborn son who died mysteriously. Thutmose III bears forensic detail. There are some forensic details about the mummy of Thutmose III that shows indications that he may have died not only from drowning, but from pulverization from rocks and other impediments. And there are indications in his son, Amenhotep II, that he may have been the pharaoh of the Exodus. So there are a lot of very, very interesting details here. And let's go on. So I am a newbie historian, but I have not yet encountered anybody who has presented what I am presenting here. I have not run across anybody who has said that the Hyksos were the descendants of the half-Egyptian Ephraim and Manasseh. The Hyksos didn't have exact Egyptian names. They didn't have exact Israelite names. But there are some very interesting names among them that think, well, this is kind of Egyptian. It's kind of Israelite. So my initial supposition was that the Israelites were the Hyksos. And I operated under this for several years, studying and researching, but my research eventually led me to conclude that the Hyksos were not the Israelites, which caused a problem because I found this out in November of 2023, and I was supposed to graduate in the summer of 2024, and to have the main pillar of my theories taken away was rather shocking and rather unnerving. So I spent a week in Egypt, and I went to museums by day, and I studied by night the book that I showed you earlier. Um, and at one point I was studying, and I had this thought: what if the descendants of Ephraim and Manasseh were related to the Israelites? And the more I study this out, the more it seems to be true. And ancient scholars like Josephus and a lot of modern scholars have confirmed this. Um, uh, I am a man of faith and a man of prayer, and I believe the best sermon is kindness and being good to other people. And all the conclusions for this video series will be based on the anchor of scholarly sources. And of course, I'm depending upon another more important anchor also. So there are going to be more videos to come, and I'm going to check my notes for just a second to make sure that I didn't miss anything. Okay. So this is going to be a video that's going to be partly about diving into the sources that talk about the Hyksos. It's going to be partly about a timeline journey from Abraham to Tutmosis the third to Tutankhamun, a period of about 900 years. It's going to be a period of it's going to be a journey from Mentuhotep II, the Egyptian pharaoh in the time of Abraham, to Joshua, the contemporary of Tutankhamun. It's going to be a very fascinating journey. It's going to be a very interesting journey, and I've tried to make this video shorter, more concise, and more professional. I may or may not have succeeded. So I have a lot of people to thank. I'm thankful for my twin brother. You can see his picture right there. It's kind of an artistic rendition of it. And he and I are writing this book, and we're trying to finish it still. And my aunt in the middle there, you can see her standing underneath the Eiffel Tower or near it. And Southern New Hampshire University. Southern New Hampshire University was super flexible, super helpful. They were with me every step of the way, and I very much appreciated them. And they were a strong arm to lean on. Unfortunately, I had a stronger arm to lean on also. And it says in John 3:27 that a man can receive nothing except to be given him from heaven. And it's my belief that God has blessed me with this information and this knowledge, and it's my intent to use it to show more about not only the Bible but ancient Egyptian history and how they interlock in such an interesting way. And I look forward to you being on this journey with me. The next video is going to be about, gotta check my notes again. Is going to be about delving into the sources. What do a lot of these sources have to say about the Hyksos? What interesting evidence can we show that they really were the descendants of Ephraim and Manasseh? What do these scholars, ancient and modern, have to say? Another video, the next video after that, is likely going to be the beginning of a very interesting journey from Abraham to Tutankhamun. How were the Hyksos rulers in amongst all of this interesting history? And it will be a very interesting journey. And I am trying to make my videos professional. And it's going to be an interesting event that will be storytelling and scholarship hand in hand. And I hope you enjoy what is to come, and I invite you to come on this trip with me. And I thank you for watching this video, and you have a great day, everyone. And I will see you in the next video.